move on to that supply, I have one question for you based on the demand which we discussed the last class. The question is, what happens to the demand for a burger if the price goes down? How many of you know the answer? Can you please raise your hands? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, okay. See, the answer for this question is demand doesn't change. The quantity demanded only will change, since this question asking you price falls. We already discussed, when the price changes, the quantity demanded will change, not the quantity. So how many of you got correct? Okay, 1. Yes, okay, it's cool. So let's move on to the supply. Here, the important thing is, as far as the supply concerned, we have to think from producer's point of view. As far as demand concerned, we have to think from consumer's point of view. So here, we will be thinking about the supply from producer's point of view. So look at the definition of supply. Supply referred as the quantity of a commodity that producers are willing and able to sell at a given price over a given period of time. Or simple way you can say that it's a quantity of a commodity that sellers are offered for sale at given price over a given period of time. So here the price and time is very, very important. And next we can move on to the law of supply. Similar to the law of demand, here there is a slight change. Look at the law of supply. When other things are being equal, more will be supplied at higher price, and less will be supplied at lower price. Which means other things are being equal, more quantity will be supplied at higher price and less will be supplied at lower price. In our real life, when the price goes up, the producers will produce and supply more, and the price goes down, the producers will produce and supply less. So there is a direct relationship between price and supply. So in our real life, nowadays we know the demand or the supply of hand sanitizer. So what is happening nowadays? The price of sanitizer going up. So the producers will be trying to produce and supply more in order to get more revenue and profit. Which means the price increases, the quantity supply will increase. So we can say that here the price and quantity supply is directly related. And just move on to the supply schedule, just like a demand schedule. Here also the supply schedule is a table which shows the different prices and different quantities of supply. So look at this table. The prices are increasing from 4, 8, 12, 16 and 20, and the quantity supplied also increasing from 100 to 700. So here when the price goes up, the quantity supply also going up. So this relationship is called the supply schedule. And when we plot these points on a graph, we will be getting supply curve. So look at the supply curve. See, when we mark these points, like when the price is 4, the quantity supply is 100, and price increased to 8, the quantity supply increased to 200, and 12 price and the quantity supply 350, and the price goes up to 16, the quantity supply increased to 530, and finally when the price is 20, the quantity supply 700. So here we just plotted the demand schedule on a graph. So, this is called supply curve. And here next we are moving to what are the factors influencing supply of a product. What are the factors influencing supply of a product? The one of the important factor, no doubt, that is the price of the product, already we discussed. So, the another important factor which influencing the supply of a product is the cost of production. The cost of production increases, the producers will produce less and the supply will decrease. So, here the cost of productions like the cost of raw materials and the labor cost, if these cost increases, the producers will produce less. So, the supply will decrease. So, the cost of production decreases, the producers will produce more. So, here we can see that the cost of production also will affect the supply of a product. And just move on to the other factor like technology. If the improvement in technology or the producer using the latest technologies to produce, so obviously the supply will increase. So, advanced technologies will increase the production and supply, which means the producers now can produce the goods more productive way. So, the supply will increase. And next, the taxation. Imposition of taxes, like imposition of indirect taxes. We already discussed about the tax, indirect tax is there, direct tax is there. Direct tax already we discussed, that is in demand part, which will affect the demand. Here the indirect tax like GST will affect the supply. If the government impose more taxes, the cost of production of the producers will increase, as a result the supply will decrease. And when the government removes the taxes, the cost of production will decrease, the producers will produce more and supply will increase. So, here the taxation also will affect the supply of a product. And another important factor affecting supply is subsidy. What is subsidy actually? Subsidy is a financial incentives or financial aid given by the government to the producers to make their product more competitive, which means this subsidy will help the producers to produce the goods at lower cost. So, the subsidy will increase the supply, and if the government removes the subsidy, the cost of production will increase, so supply will decrease. So, we can here say that the subsidy also will be affecting the supply of a product. And whether another important factor which affecting the supply of a product is weather. I think you remember 2011 tsunami affect the Japan, which destroyed thousands of factories and resources. As a result, what happened? The supply of electronic items and cars decreased. So, the weather also will affect the supply. If there is a good weather, the supply will increase, and if the weather is very bad, the supply will decrease. And move on to the number of suppliers. If the number of suppliers in the market increases, the supply also will increase, and if the number of suppliers in the market decreases, the supply will decrease. And another important factor is price of other products. That is one of the important factor which affecting the supply of a product. Price of other products. Other products can be competitive supply or joint supply. Price of the other product also will affect the supply of one product. For example, here look at the competitive supply. In case of competitive supply, if the price of a product or if the quantity supply of one product increases, it will lead to the supply of another product to fall. For example, here once again, if the price of one product increases, the quantity supply of another product will decrease. Always the producers will produce the product which are more profitable for them. For example, bread and cake. As a baker, we can bake bread or cake. In the market, if the price of bread increases, the baker will produce more bread. What's the result? As a result, the supply or the production of cake will decrease because he has to use more resources for the production of bread. So here the price of bread affect the cake. When the price of bread increases, the supply of cake decreases even if cake's price remains the same. So these kind of products are called competitive supply. And we can go for another example, rice and wheat. As a farmer, suppose I have a piece of land, can produce either rice or wheat. In the market, the price of wheat increasing. So as a producer, what I will do? I will produce more wheat instead of rice. So here the supply of rice will decrease. So these kind of products are called competitive supply. And another type is there, that is joint supply. What's joint supply meaning? Jointly supplied. From the name itself you can identify jointly supplied, which means increase or decrease in supply of one product leads to increase or decrease in its byproducts. Once again, this is a very important concept, joint supply. Joint supply means increase or decrease in supply of one product leads to increase or decrease in supply of byproducts. For example, beef and leather. In order to produce more beef, we have to slaughter cows. So what will happen? When we slaughter the cows, the supply of leather also will increase. So with this beef, we are getting leather too. And lamb and wool. If the supply of lamb increases, the supply of wool increases as well. So these kind of products are called joint supply. That means jointly supplied. The production of one product leads to the production of another one. So these are the main factors affecting supply of a product. Okay, let's move on to another concept, movement along the supply curve and movement of the supply curve. Only we heard about this movement along and movement off in demand part. Here, movement along the supply curve and movement of the supply curve. So here, the movement along the supply curve is due to price, and movement of the supply curve is due to non-price factors. So this movement along the supply curve or movement along the supply, we can divide it into two. That is extension of supply and contraction of supply. What's the difference between extension and contraction of supply? You already learned. Any idea? Yes, very good. So, extension and contraction of supply will occur due to price factors. Look at the definition of extension and contraction of supply. Here, one thing keep in your mind, supply or the quantity supply will increase only if price increases. So, look at the extent of supply. Rise in quantity supplied due to rise in price. Of course, if you learn extension of supply, opposite is the contraction of supply. The quantity supply decreasing due to fall in price. So, what is the difference between extension of supply and contraction of supply? Extension of supply is increase in supply due to rise in price, and contraction supply is due to decrease in supply due to fall in price. And let us move on to the changes in supply. That is actually changes in supply is due to non-price factors. So, what are the non-price factors already we discussed? Yes, whether, yeah, good, taxation, yeah, good, subsidy, yes, very good, price of related goods, of course, okay, very good. So, there are many factors affecting supply of product other than price. So, look at the movement of the supply curve. Movement of the supply curve we can divide it into two, increase in supply and decrease in supply. In case of increase in supply, the supply curve will shift to right, and in case of decrease in supply, the curve or the supply curve will shift to left. Look at this diagram. S is the original supply curve, P is the price, and Q is the quantity supplied. And according to this diagram, the supply curve shift to right to S1, but price remains the same. So, increase in supply or shift of the supply curve is due to non-price factors, because the price here remains the same. Maybe latest technology used, maybe government gave the subsidy, or maybe government removed the tax. So, in these situations supply will increase, so the supply curve will shift to right. And decrease in supply, right opposite of this. Look at this, the supply curve will shift to left. So, here supply curve shift from S to S1 even if price remains the same. What might be the reason why the supply curve shift to left? Maybe bad weather, maybe government removed the subsidy, maybe government imposed more indirect taxes. So, in these situations, or the cost of production also you can tell, increase in cost of production. So, in these situations supply will decrease and supply curve will shift to left. So, these are the difference between increase in supply and decrease in supply. And here I have some questions based on this topic we discussed. So, hope everyone will do this question. Look at the first question. In each case, using a supply diagram, show the effect on the market for burger. What will happen to the market for burger if the following changes occur? Write down now itself. The first one, increase in price of burger. So, you have to identify whether the supply curve move along the curve or increase or decrease, which means extension of supply or contraction of supply, increase in supply or decrease in supply. So, the first question, increase in price of burger. If the price of burger increases, what will happen? Extension, contraction, increase or decrease. Move on to the second one, increase in price of bun. What will happen to the market for burger if the price of bun increase? So, you have to identify whether it is increase or decrease or extension or contraction. And next, increase in demand for sandwich. Suppose if the demand for sandwich increases, what will happen to the market for burger? Identify and draw. And subsidy, government decided to give subsidies to the restaurant people. So, what will happen to the supply of burger? And indirect tax, government imposed more taxes on products. As a result, what will happen to the burger? So please identify and draw. And move on to the next question. What is joint supply? And give two real life examples. And another one, analyze the reasons why the supply of hand sanitizer may increase in future. Identify or analyze the reasons. What are the reasons why the demand for hand sanitizer increase in future? One thing keep in your mind here, increase in demand, which means should be non-price factors. What are the non-price factors that affect the supply of hand sanitizer? So this is the end of this session. Hope everyone will do this work for the next class. So we will be back with another topic in the next session. Till then, bye.
Ati badarogovia evsed wakan ay wakina amade koran angawa fotima en amad no koreunima en amad ko sabab libene nota sayaka waki surata keima mi mul qur'an ke kama wane ay ki tarsoda ifada hadith kam ga wies dab namada be ko tkuno mer ki qur'an waki surata مثلا قل هو الله أحد أي تيم فارك يبيما أي كيت قرآن وقتيم باكل به قلنا لي بس فرد هي ميه كيف فكا هي كفان كانت تيم فارك يبيما كيت قرآن